I adore. I'm born and raised Calgarian, but I lived in Edmonton for a year, and then I moved back to Calgary in September. Edmonton. I moved back to Calgary in September, and I needed a place to live, and the flood had just happened. There was like nowhere to live, less than 1% vacancy rate. And my parents, who live in Calgary, were like, come live with us for a couple months while you find somewhere to live. And I'm like, no. I can't be that millennial who moves back home. Like, I'm too cool for that. I'm going to go live with my granny. So, yeah, my solution was to live with my granny, who's she's 78 years old, and she was quite recently widowed. She lives in this old house in Bowness, and I was like, yeah, I'll just live there for, like, maybe a month while I find somewhere else to live. So I moved into her house, and I went into it thinking, like, her house would be really sweet because I had all these memories from when I was a child. And those things are cool when you're a child, but when you're a grown-up, not as cool. For example, she had this cuckoo clock that, like, goes off every hour. And when I was little, I'm like, this is awesome. But then I lived right beside it, and it wasn't as awesome. And she had, like, other things, a very old TV. When I was little, cool, grown-up, and you want to watch TV. Not as cool. So I moved into a spare room in the basement. When I moved in, there was like this shelf on the wall that had things such as bowling trophies. One of them said Grace Hospital Bowling Fun Night runner-up. Like, it was like that caliber of bowling trophies. There was also some crib trophies. There was like some puzzles on the wall from when it was cool to like build puzzles on a board and then glue them and mount them on the wall. So it was like I moved into this really old room. I also moved some stuff into the fridge, which was super funny because like Granny had never heard of things like hummus or tzatziki or things that were like quite normal to me. So anyways, I moved into Granny's house. My Granny was super pumped because she was really lonely. She was recently widowed. She bragged to all her friends about how cool it was that she had this 20-something-year-old granddaughter living with her. And she was a really great roommate initially. Well, the whole time. But like at first, things she did were like really like, for example, she wrote me this note, and first of all, the note on the top, it said, another damn list, and it had a picture of a beaver. Because old people have things like that. And then she would leave me notes, for example, one said, there is bacon in the crisper if you want some for breakfast. Love, Granny. And that's like, no roommate has ever left me bacon. That's really nice. I love bacon. So there's lots of good things. My granny would have Caesars, which is one of my favorite drinks. Every day at like 4 o'clock, it would be Caesar o'clock. So if I was home, we would have Caesars. I got a garage parking spot. She'd make really delicious home-cooked meals. And I was kind of working weird shifts at this time, so if I was like, Granny, I won't be home till like 10 o'clock, she would wait until I was home at 10 o'clock to eat with me, and that was really great. It wasn't all fun and games, though. It was like she was grieving, it was sad, she would cry sometimes, we would talk about it. It was quite like stereotypical. She would do things like watch The Price is Right every single day at 11 o'clock while drinking a beer, which was awesome. And she was also, so I'm a journalist and I work at a newspaper, and my granny was like obsessed, or is obsessed, with watching the news and then telling me about it. So she'd be like, what did you work on today? And I'd tell her, and she'd be like, yeah, the news, I saw that on the news. And like, I don't think she really understands how it works. She was also, I don't know if other people's grandparents are like this, but my granny loves the weather, and like the Weather Channel was on all the time. I'm like, Granny, like nowadays you can look it up on your phone, or you can like look outside and see what the weather is. But Granny loved watching the Weather Channel. Some of the funny things Granny said while I was living with her were, what does Tinder stand for? She would tell me things like from the olden days. For example, cigarettes cost 43 cents a pack, and fence posts cost 49 cents a post in Calgary in 1963. One time I was going to karaoke with some friends, and my granny said, how do you play karaoke? Which was awesome. And when I was living with her, so I moved in at like the beginning of October, and then I stayed for several months actually. And it was really cold. It was like that cold snap that just happened in Calgary in the winter. And she would always be like, I don't know why people make such a to-do about the weather when I grew up in Saskatchewan. And then she'd tell these long stories, and it was great. So anyways, I moved into this house, and Granny had no internet, because why would she have internet? She'd never been on a computer before. And so when I moved in, I was like, Granny, we're getting internet, I'll pay for it. So this guy came to install it, and it was super funny because he like couldn't figure out how to install it because the house was so old, and he'd like never installed internet in a house that hadn't had internet before. So we had internet, and I was like, you know what, why not teach Granny the internet? I was quite inspired by one of my favorite Twitter accounts, which is called Old Man Search. I don't know if anyone's heard about it. But the description on Old Man Search says, my dad is 83 years old. I'm teaching him how to use the internet. I told him Twitter was how to search things on Google. These tweets are what he's searching. And then there's like awesome tweets. For example, why do blind people smile? Question mark. Breast milk yogurt? Question mark. Why can't I tickle myself? Question mark. A framed Jeopardy clue? Has anybody ever been named Onion? So like I love old people. I kind of forgot to say that at the beginning. I love seniors. That was partly why I wanted to live with Granny for a little bit. So we got the internet, and I'm like, why not teach Granny the internet? And Granny was like super overwhelmed, so I'm like, let's start small. We'll just start with Facebook. So we signed her up for an account, and her name on Facebook was her first name's Doris. And Granny was all like worried about privacy because she watches the news, and she thinks about viruses and stuff. So she's like, I cannot go by my first name. Or like her real name. So we put her up as Doris, and then her last name was Granny. So when she posts, it says Doris Granny, which is adorable. So we got the internet, December 3rd, 2013. Granny's first ever status said, hi Anna, call me before you come home. Granny, thank you. And that was awesome. That was her status. I taught her so many times how to like go to someone's wall and write on it, but cool, that's her first status. And Granny had like my grandparents had never had a computer before, or my granddad actually. They had a computer, and my granddad played like weird poker games and stuff on it. Just like those CD-ROMs you got in cereal boxes. that's what he played, that's what he would do. But my granny had like never typed before, so her like typing was really hard for her, and she was using my iPad. And so anyways, so we got Granny the internet, and then Granny ended up getting her own iPad for Christmas, which was awesome. So her second status said, hi to you, just trying my spelling. And then her grandkids and kids liked it because that's awesome. So Granny's third ever status, she found out where caps lock was, and her status in all capitals, this is her status, keep in mind, said, hi Aiden, that's my brother, nice winter, period, weather, period, enjoy, period, love, period, Granny, period. So Granny was also learning how to use periods and stuff, which was cool. So I thought that all capitals was really exciting. So I moved out at the beginning of February. I found somewhere else to live. So I lived with her for 4 months, which was a long time to live with a grieving 78-year-old, but also really awesome. And when I moved out, Granny, so she had 3 statuses during the 4 months I lived with her. When I moved out, Granny really took to Facebook. So she would post just adorable statuses like, hi to everyone, have a great day. Hi every, period, 1, period, enjoy your day, blue, period, sky, and lots of sunshine, period, bye. She continued to not remember how to post on people's walls. So February 6th, she said, hi Viv, I got, period, your message. Haven't seen anyone with a beard, white or black. Bye. Not sure what Granny was talking about. So then Granny went to Mexico, which was awesome. She and her 83-year-old friend Norma went to Mexico. And Granny had never been to Mexico before. She was actually super nervous because years ago when she was on an airplane, it almost crashed, and there's this article about it in the paper, and she pulled out her old scrapbook with the article before she went. So she made it to Mexico safe and sound. Right before she went, she wrote on my wall, Anna, I remember you saying you would show me how to change the battery on the camera. Was I dreaming? Period, question mark. Please call me. So I called her right away. We sorted it out because in addition to teaching her how to use the internet, we had lent her a camera so she could take pictures of Mexico. So she went to Mexico. It was awesome. Granny tried tequila for the first time. She went to a tequila factory. She did not go in the ocean because she was scared of jellyfish. And all those things she had seen on the news about those horror stories about Mexico did not come true. So that was cool. The bad news was Granny came back from Mexico and forgot everything she had ever learned about how to use Facebook. So March 19th, she wrote, "I've, forgotten, how to use this, boy what a mess, Granny, bye." And that was Granny's Facebook status. And so slowly, she relearned how to use Facebook. She would write things like, "Dear people, it is Sunday, a.m. And guess what is falling down? Snow. Just wanting to make sure you're in the right place. Love from Doris Granny." I don't know if that was Granny or if it was like the iPad auto-correcting, but she would often sign things "Love from Doris Granny," which is awesome. So Granny continued to just be a hoot on Facebook to the point where people I worked with would be like, "Anna, Granny wrote on your Facebook." And we'd all have, it was great. So she had lots of good statuses. She also had really sad ones. For example, one that said, "Do you ever run out of tears?" Which was really sad, but what impressed me the most was that the capitalization was all correct. There was a question mark at the end. There was no random periods, and I was like, "This is really sad, but Granny, you're getting so much better at Facebook." She also, because Granny loves the weather, and I put like the Weather Network app on her iPad, but she continued to just obsessively watch the Weather Network. She'd say statuses like, "Beautiful, sunshine, enjoy." So this was now, we're like moving to March now, and I went to Iceland for a couple weeks, and at the same time my mom was away on vacation, and me and my mom were kind of the two main people helping Granny with Facebook. And so Granny had no help with Facebook, and some crazy things happened while we were gone. For example, Granny learned how to use the camera function on her iPad, but she didn't know it, and so she was like sitting on her couch, and she took this picture of like her leg and her house coat and like the like case from the iPad. She took it and then somehow changed it to her cover photo, and she didn't really know how that happened, and so she sent me this message that said, "Hi Anna, I'm sending you a message." That was all one word. "Somehow I have changed my face pictures and lost one. I wish I could figure this." That was all one word. "At least I can send you messages. Maybe by the time you guys get back, I will have figured this out. This is Wednesday," but she spelled Wednesday, Wednesday. "I'm enjoying your messages. Have a great trip. Love, Granny." And she also, while we were gone, started to write the time the messages were being sent. So like, for example, "Hi, are you getting anxious to be home? What a silly question, eh? Enjoy the last moments. See you soon, Granny. Friday, 5:35. My favorite part about that is, according to Facebook, it was sent at 6:10 p.m. I'm not sure what happened between 5:35 and 6:10 p.m., but I did get Granny's message. And so fast forward to today, Granny, I tried to teach her other things on the iPad, but Facebook is her favorite. Like Google, she'll be like, "Well, what should I Google?" And I'll be like, "Anything you want." That's the purpose of Google. But everything that I suggest, she's like, "Well, I've gotten by like 50, 60, 70, like she's gone by forever without having to look that up, and she still can. So she's not as cool on Google. She's kind of like embracing the Weather Network app a little bit more. I put Crib on there so she can play Crib. And so I still periodically get messages like, "Anna, I can't figure out my iPad," and I is like I space pad. "Call me," and I'll call her, and then we'll talk it out, or I'll go visit her. And she's practicing her typing. It's getting a lot better. She has a lot less capitalizations. Her periods are better. She'll send me messages like, "Hi Anna, I'm just trying to practice my messages and figure out how to use my pad. Hope you're having a great day and you find some good news to write about. We'll talk to you later. Love, Doris Granny. Bye." A recent funny thing that happened was I invited Granny for dinner. I was like, "Granny, this would be great." And then I got rejected, and she said, "Hi Anna, I just got your message. Thanks for the offer, but I'm going to see Jubilation's Dinner Theater to see Elvis. We'll talk to you later," which was adorable that she went to Elvis. I got rejected for Elvis. So anyways, the point of this whole story, also I'll send her videos. She's like getting better at like clicking things and then going to other pages. She gets less overwhelmed. So I keep sending her funny videos, but she's already seen them all because I guess the news, I don't ever watch like the whole newscast, but nowadays news shows like viral videos, and that's always what I'll send her. So she's like, yeah, I saw that like 2 days ago. So that's cool. So the moral of the story is that seniors are awesome, and if you have a grandparent or a senior in your life, teach them how to use the internet, because it's great, and hopefully there's more in store for Granny and Facebook and possibly Twitter. I still love Old Man Search, so maybe that'll be the next step. The end.